So just over a year ago I posted my body transformation video, and yes, there are many body transformation videos on the internet, but I think what made mine different was the fact that I had severe scoliosis and I had to get surgery to fix it. So the largest part of my back was literally bolted together with iron screws and titanium rods. So I only have mobility in the lower part of my back where I was not fused. And here's a photo of what my back now looks like from the inside. This might look pretty severe to some of you, but this was just after the operation, so I haven't recovered at all at this point. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me at all. I mean, since then I've completed over 40 multi-day hikes with heavy backpacks, some of which include the Otter, the Fish River Canyon and Oorlogskloof in South Africa. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, even though I am at a disadvantage because of the fusion, I can still find ways to do almost anything I want. The trick is just to find different ways than what people are used to or what they see as the norm. One question people ask me quite often in terms of the fusion is, can I lift heavy things after the operation? And the answer is yes, but a better question might be, how do I lift heavy things without hurting myself? And to answer that question, I will go through my workout and show you exactly how I tweaked some of the bigger movements to be more comfortable or safer or just more gentle on my spine, in a way that I can still lift heavy weights, but in a safe way in terms of my back. One thing to remember though is that after the operation we actually have a stronger back than a normal person's, because we have that support of the rods. The thing is, at the points of our spine where we do not have the support, that's where the trouble can come in. I've compiled 10 tips of how I train optimally that I've learned over the years specific to my situation, but some of these might be applicable to you. Tip number 1 is to use a lifting belt. As I've said before, the most vulnerable part of my spine is at my lower back, and the lifting belt really just gives me that extra bit of support and peace of mind when I lift heavier weights on, for example, the squat or the deadlift. Tip number 2 is to squat low bar. So obviously this is for the squat specifically. When I approach the bar for a squat, I position the bar much lower on my back than the normal neck and shoulders. As you can see here, the bar is resting more on my rear delts and upper back than my neck. This is much safer for your spine. Tip number 3 is to try and strain the muscle more than the skeletal structure. So even here in the upright position, you can see I'm leaning slightly forward. That's to engage some of my back muscles, to take some of the strain off of my spine so that the entire force of the weight isn't pressing down on my spine alone. Tip number 4 is to do more with less. So with the squat example, I will do 5 sets of squats, increasing the weight each set until a point where I can only do 6 reps, and I rarely, if ever, go lower than 6 reps. Tip number 5 is to front squat. So if you do not feel comfortable with the back squat, you can always make the front squat your method of choice. That's how I started as well. Tip number 6 is for the deadlift, and it's to take a sumo stance. So instead of a conventional deadlift that feels wrong in every part of my body, I take a sumo stance, which engages more of your leg muscles and a little bit less of your back. Throughout the movement, my back is straight, only tilting slightly forward to get the bar past my knees, but the majority of the pushing power comes from my legs. Tip number 7 is to love the bar. Now what I mean by this is, throughout the movement of the deadlift, you want to keep the bar as close to your body as possible to avoid leaning too much forward and putting unnecessary strain on your spine. This often results, when I do deadlifts, in my shins bleeding after the first set where the bar scraped my shins. Yeah, you can see I put on some trousers just not to get blood all over the bar. Tip number 8 is to be careful with heavy weights while deadlifting. So something I recently stopped doing is 1 rep maxes on the deadlift. I don't have any discomfort while performing the movement, I just don't want to take the chance and risk hurting my spine again with weights I can only lift 1 time. So now that we are done with the 2 dangerous lifts, we can come to my favorite of them all, the bench press. And here you don't really have anything to worry about in terms of spinal injury. because your entire back is supported by the bench. Personally, I choose to arch my back slightly while performing this movement, just to have a more solid foundation to push the bar up from. Another exercise where heavy weights are involved is the leg press. Now fortunately for us, if you perform the exercise correctly, the pressure should not be on your spine but rather on the rear part of your hip bone. So as long as you perform the exercise correctly, heavy weights should not be a problem. Tip number 9, there are always alternatives. The only exercise I physically cannot perform yet is the barbell bent over row. Fortunately, there are so many alternatives for this exercise. My favorite include the T-bar row and the dumbbell row. For tip number 10, we look at abs. Now, I cannot perform regular crunches or sit-ups because of the rods, obviously, so I can't bend. And at the beginning I thought this was going to be a problem for me, but luckily there are once again alternatives. So most of my ab workout consists of static movements like different variations of the plank or L-sits. So those are the 10 tips that I've learned over the years of how to train with my specific situation, with the least amount of compromise and the most amount of gains. I hope this inspired some of you. If you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel, and please in the comment section leave suggestions for future videos.